How to define an ancient hill range by protecting a delicate balance. There is an ongoing debate on how to define the Aravalli Hill Range. A Supreme Court directed committee is revisiting the criteria, particularly the use of a 100-meter elevation threshold. The concern is that such a narrow definition may exclude large areas of the Aravallis, thereby weakening environmental protection and opening the door for exploitation. The Aravalli Range is one of the oldest fold mountain systems in the world. It plays a crucial ecological role by acting as a natural barrier against the expansion of the Thar Desert. It supports biodiversity, helps in groundwater recharge, and regulates the climate of northwest India. Additionally, it provides ecological and livelihood security to millions of people across states like Rajasthan, Haryana, Delhi, and Gujarat. The Aravallis are protected under the Environment Protection Act of 1986. The Aravalli Notification of 1992 restricts mining and industrial activities in the region. The Supreme Court has consistently emphasized the need to prioritize conservation over exploitation. These measures highlight the importance of maintaining ecological balance in this fragile region. The controversy lies in how the Aravalli Hills are defined. Earlier, the Forest Survey of India used a 3-degree slope criterion, which was considered scientifically sound. However, a recent committee proposed a 100-meter elevation-based definition. This narrower approach reduces the number of included districts from 62 to just 37, excluding several ecologically important areas. This raises concerns about weakening environmental safeguards. Going forward, it is essential to adopt a scientific and ecological approach to defining the Aravalli Hills. Policymakers must balance development needs with environmental conservation. A transparent, data-driven approach involving all stakeholders is crucial. Ultimately, defining the Aravallis correctly is not just a technical exercise. It is about protecting a delicate ecological balance that sustains both nature and human life. NCERT Book Ban, a chapter on judicial transparency. The Supreme Court recently directed a ban on a Class 8 NCERT textbook that discussed judicial corruption and delays. The decision also penalized the authors without a proper hearing. This incident raises serious concerns about judicial transparency and accountability in India. Judicial accountability is essential in a democracy. When decisions such as banning a book are taken without due process, it weakens public trust in the judiciary. Transparency is not optional, it is fundamental to maintaining the legitimacy and integrity of judicial institutions. The ban also raises questions about freedom of speech. Article 19 guarantees this right, and restrictions can only be imposed through law, not arbitrary orders. A judicial ban on academic content risks becoming a form of censorship, which is problematic in a democratic society. Another concern is whether the content actually met the threshold for contempt of court. There was no clear malicious intent. Globally, countries like Kenya have improved judicial credibility through transparency and reform. Acknowledging problems rather than suppressing criticism strengthens public trust. Going forward, the judiciary must promote transparency, allow dissent, and ensure due process in all decisions. Ethical governance demands openness to criticism. Ultimately, public trust in the judiciary is built not by suppressing uncomfortable truths, but by embracing reform and accountability. The opportunity in Cameroon to rebalance the WTO. The 14th WTO Ministerial Conference in Cameroon comes at a critical time. Global trade is no longer just economic, it is increasingly geopolitical. Countries are using tariffs and economic coercion as strategic tools. This makes WTO reform more urgent than ever. The WTO is facing its biggest crisis since 1995. Its dispute settlement system has become ineffective due to a non-functional appellate body. Decision-making has slowed down because of the large membership. As a result, trust in rule-based global trade is declining. Global trade has transformed significantly. The rise of digital commerce, global value chains, and emerging economies has changed the nature of trade. Climate-related trade measures are also expanding. However, WTO rules were designed for the late 20th century and are now outdated. To address these challenges, several reforms are necessary. The dispute settlement system must be restored. Fairness for developing countries should be ensured. Transparency in subsidies and trade practices must improve. WTO rules need to be updated, and special provisions for developing countries must be revisited. The WTO represents a rule-based global trading system. Without reform, the world may shift toward power-based trade dominated by stronger nations. WTO reform is not just technical, it is ethical. The Cameroon Ministerial Conference is a critical opportunity to restore balance and trust in global trade governance. India's future demographic challenges. India is entering a new demographic phase. Population growth is slowing, fertility rates are declining, and the country is transitioning from a youth dominated population to an aging society. This marks a major structural shift in India's demographic profile. India's population is projected to increase from about 1.35 billion in 2021 to nearly 1.59 billion by 2051. However, the growth rate is slowing to around 0.5% annually. This indicates that India is moving towards a more stable population structure. Declining fertility rates are reducing the child population. This will lower demand for government schools and may even lead to teacher job losses. At the same time, private schools are increasing due to parental preference for better quality education. India's elderly population is expected to more than double by 2051. The demographic dividend, driven by the working age population, will peak around 2041 and then decline. This will increase pressure on healthcare systems and social security. To manage this transition, India must invest in education and skill development, increase women's workforce participation, and strengthen healthcare systems, especially geriatric care. At the same time, the aging population offers opportunities through the emerging silver economy. India must act now to convert this challenge into a long-term advantage. BJP MP seeks sub-quota for OBC in central schemes. The Justice G. Rohini Commission was set up in 2017 under Article 340 to examine the issue of subcategorization within other backward classes. It found that reservation benefits were not equally distributed, with dominant groups cornering a major share. The Commission recommended dividing OBCs into subgroups with separate quota shares to ensure fair and equitable distribution of reservation benefits. Its report was submitted in 2023. The core idea is to deepen social justice by ensuring that all sections within OBCS get fair access. Large Hadron Collider discovers a new particle. Scientists at CERN have discovered a new particle called She double charm plus plus. It is a heavy baryon made of two charm quarks and one up quark, confirming predictions of the Standard Model. The Large Hadron Collider is the world's largest particle accelerator. It collides protons at extremely high speeds to recreate early universe conditions and study fundamental particles. NTPC ARM commissions 165 megawatts capacity at Khavda 2. NTPC Renewable Energy Limited has commissioned 165 megawatts from the Khavda Solar Project in Gujarat, located near the Ran of Kutch. The Khavda project is part of a massive hybrid renewable energy park, combining solar and wind. With a planned capacity of around 30 gigawatts, it is among the largest renewable energy parks in the world. World Happiness Report flags social media's negative impact. Finland happiest. The World Happiness Report 2026 ranks Finland as the happiest country, while India stands at 126th. The report also highlights the negative impact of excessive social media use on well-being. The report is published by the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network. It measures happiness using life satisfaction scores based on multiple factors like income, health, social support, freedom, and governance. Before salt, there was water. Why Mahat Satyagraha deserves its centenary. The Mahat Satyagraha was led by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in 1927 to secure Dalit access to public water sources, symbolized by drinking water from the Chowdar tank. The movement asserted civil rights and challenged caste discrimination. It was followed by the burning of Manusmriti, symbolizing resistance against social inequality. Unfenced border with Myanmar in focus after arrest of 7 foreigners. Recent incidents of foreigners illegally crossing the India-Myanmar border and allegedly training armed groups have raised serious security concerns. It highlights vulnerabilities in border management. The India-Myanmar border is about 1,643 kilometers long, but only a very small portion is fenced. Most of it remains open, especially across northeastern states. A unique feature of this border is the free movement regime, which allows local communities to cross without passports. However, due to security concerns, the allowed distance has been reduced. The border remains largely unfenced because communities on both sides share deep ethnic and cultural ties. Full fencing is socially sensitive and geographically difficult. The core challenge is balancing national security with the livelihoods and traditions of border communities. A mix of technology, better implementation, and community cooperation is essential. Domestic sourcing of solar wafers, ingots. How will it curb Chinese imports? The government has extended domestic sourcing norms in solar manufacturing to include wafers and ingots from 2028. The aim is to reduce dependence on imports and strengthen domestic capabilities. India's solar sector is strong in modules and cells, but weak in upstream components like wafers and ingots. The policy introduces a cascading sourcing rule and expands ALMM lists to ensure complete domestic supply chain development. Festive fervor. A woman in traditional attire takes part in the Gudi Padwa procession to mark the Marathi New Year at Girgaon in Mumbai on Thursday. Gudi Padwa and Ugadi mark the traditional New Year in different parts of India, celebrated on the first day of the Chaitra month. These festivals are closely linked to the spring season and agricultural cycles. They are part of a broader tradition of regional New Year celebrations across India, reflecting the country's cultural diversity and historical roots.